Alright, here we go, before the snow melts. Yeah, what's this one about? What's this video about? I remember my rag today. So I've done some working / volunteering in aquatics. So this is like brief breakdown. Yeah, I have not a single day of my life been paid as a swimmer, which is like, yeah. And I would include in payment is like people who go to college and like swim and then they get their tuition waived or something, like, so a tuition waiver, which could be like, depending on where you're going, that could be like $40,000 a year that a student athlete gets paid from the school because they don't have to pay for tuition, so the payment goes to their tuition. So those kind of athletes, they still get paid for swimming technically, they just don't see the money. Yeah, so I didn't swim for school or anything like that, so I've never been paid. I have not been paid as a swimmer. I wasn't that good, and that wasn't something I ever pursued or was interested in. So if, like, technically if like somebody gets paid for that, they're called a professional. So like if you get paid for what you do, so professional swimmers would get like a tuition waiver or get like paid directly or have sponsorships or stuff like that. So I don't have that kind of work experience. I started at the bottom and worked my way up. A bunch of professional swimmers don't do that. So what do I mean? I started by cleaning. I scrubbed toilets. So I worked for the local pool cleaning. My title was cleaner. We did vacuum the pool, we did clean the pool, but we cleaned the pool deck, we cleaned the locker rooms, we cleaned the office, the kitchen. Like, there was a building, there's like where people put stuff and go in and out of the pool and stuff like that. And so it wasn't, and then like clean up before, like set up of pool, so like swimming competitions, we'd set up and take down and clean up after the swimmers and the parents and the coaches and stuff. Picking up trash, that kind of stuff. That was my job for like 2 years. In the second year, I became a lifeguard. And it starts, so it was just a lifeguard. And then I became a senior lifeguard when I got old enough. So there's like a responsibility component, like there's a bunch of lifeguards there. If the pool manager isn't there, then the next highest authority in the lifeguard structure for where I worked was a senior lifeguard. So eventually I became a senior lifeguard. We still did some of the cleaning, but we didn't do, like, there are cleaners. So we would help with like event. So like swimming competition, we'd still help set up and take down and clean up trash and stuff like that. So that kind of cleaning, or cleaning as needed, we'd help with, but it was the cleaners' jobs. And like it was kind of like the place where I worked. So I started working in aquatics when I was 14 years old. The pool I worked at, like, you can't just work as a 14-year-old. The place you work legally, if you want to work legally, and I did, I worked legally. They have to have in Washington State, so I was working in Washington State. They have to have special permits to have allow people to work when they're only 14 years old. So 14 and 15. And so the place where I worked had those special permits, so I started working when I was 14. And then in addition to this, I was, so in lifeguarding, cleaning, it applies to water aerobics, water polo matches, swimming. It's not just swimming. Open water swim, that kind of stuff. Lap swim. So a lot of swimming, but not only swimming. And then I was an assistant coach. Paid at one pool, and then I volunteered as an assistant coach at a different pool. And I volunteered in water polo just for like helping keep score, if I'm recalling that correctly. Like, there's the score and the timer, and I think that was how I volunteered in water polo. So I have some volunteer experience in pool swimming and water polo as well. But I was an assistant coach and a volunteer coach, but this is kind of paid experience. for swim team. And that was 18 years old and younger. So it was a youth team. Assistant coach. And then this is all great. Lifeguarding out of these, so cleaning was like a year and a half, 2 years. Lifeguarding was 3 or 4 years. So I spent 6 years working in aquatics. And so lifeguarding was 3 or 4 years, I guess about 4. As was swim instructing. So swim instructor. And that was all ages. So like literally I would have 70-year-old and older. I did adult classes, so that was, I shadowed for a tots class, which is where you get like babies and toddlers. But part of my curriculum, I had 3-year-olds and younger. I had special classes, so I had up to senior citizens. So we're talking like approximately 70 years old. So we call it youth if they're 18 and under, and then adults. So I did both youth and adult classes. Some people only focus on young swimmers because they're like, gotta maintain the pipeline. I just enjoyed teaching anybody to swim. Not that picky. And then I also taught students with disabilities. So things like autism, cerebral palsy, so both physical and mental disabilities I taught. And so I was a swim instructor. We started swim instructor shadowing when I was like, I think 14 or 15. And kind of, it was kind of more like a volunteer thing because we were restricted to like pool cleaning. So like, I'd say like 4 years as like, 3 to 4 years as a main thing, but then with 2 years of like, this is gonna be on your job in the future if you stick with us, which you're gonna stick with us. So front end is like 5 years, over 5 years of swim instructing, including shadowing, I guess. And then there were also private lessons, and private lessons are one-on-one. So like I would teach one person, kind of thing. So swim instructor, cleaner, coach, lifeguard. The two big ones were swim instructor and lifeguard. Yeah, and then I volunteered as a swim coach at the YMCA, and yeah, and so I worked at a community pool, and then another community pool in the Seattle Department of Parks and Recreation. And our community pool is like the residents of the community I live in pay for the pool, so it's public in that sense. Some people like to call it private, but it's like, well, technically the people who pay for it get to use it, so it's really public. And then the third one, I worked at the YMCA for a couple of years. So that's kind of my work experience in aquatics.